Hello and welcome to Tech Raven. Well, today I've got a very quick video for you just to show you how Apple achieved this photograph. Well, I should be perfectly honest and tell you that Apple didn't actually achieve this photograph because I took this photograph myself, but over the years Apple have used this technique for many shots of their headphones, either the wired ones or the Bluetooth in-ear ones. Now you're probably thinking, hang on a minute, Apple don't actually take pictures of their products like this. They use programs like Blender and they just sort of knock up renders on the computer because it's quicker and easier. And that's true up to a point, but Apple still does do things the traditional way. For example, the new Apple TV logo was created totally organically using Perspex glass, clever lighting, cameramen, a crew to actually create that Apple TV logo. It wasn't actually done on a computer. So Apple still does use photography and traditional ways of doing things. So to create this image, it's actually a very easy image to take. The Apple images over the years have had this kind of surreal backlit kind of look, which is really good. And to achieve it, you just need one single light. It's just a single softbox. The flash gun I've got at the back of it is just a Godox AD600, but it was only set to quarter power, so even a basic speed light on full power would probably do the job. Now you probably noticed on this softbox, I've actually got this piece of black foam board in the middle. Now you can get softboxes that are dedicated that have got a front baffle where the center bit is black and the edges are white. Now I've never been a fan of those, and here's why. The reason being is because the actual black part in the middle is actually material like this, and it can have creases in it and they can show up in the pictures. And you're probably thinking, but hang on, the background's supposed to be black, you're not going to see it. But that's not necessarily true, because sometimes you might just want to have another strobe pointing away, bouncing onto a ceiling to basically throw some light back onto the back of this black center. So you've got a very dark gray color, for example. And on that, you want it to be perfectly smooth. Or you might want to have a tiny little snoot just to put a little ball of light in the middle that gradates out, stuff like that. Now, anybody that's ever used Colorama paper rolled backgrounds will know just how rubbish they are, because you can see all the tiny little ripples where they've been folded up. Now, professional studios that have got an infinity cove, they will basically paint that to whatever color they want. So if they need a sky blue background, they'll actually paint the infinity cove sky blue. A week later, if they need a different color, they'll paint it again and paint it again. Throughout the course of the year, it might get painted 20 or 30 times, because professionals know that Colorama paper backgrounds are no good because of all those ripples. And the same applies here. This is a solid piece of foam board, so there's not going to be any rippling or any marks. It's just going to be really flat, and it's going to make a beautiful background. Now, as you can see, it's just a couple of bits of wire hanging over the top of the softbox, so you don't need anything special, and you can experiment with the size of this. I actually did have one that's A3, a lot bigger. I cut it in half down to A4 just so I could get a little bit more light to wrap around these earpieces. Now, I did actually take the shot at first to f8. It wasn't quite enough. I had to basically do it again at f11, because I found that when I was focusing on the actual earpieces themselves, and they are both on the same plane as the camera, but as you can see, the cables are sitting behind, and because it's a 100mm macro lens, that depth of field suddenly gets very narrow very quickly when you're working at macros. So I did actually change it and make it f11 just to make sure the cable looked a lot better. So that's what I did there. Now, it does require 3 photographs to be taken, and you probably noticed that I'm holding a flash meter here, and you're probably thinking, hang on a minute, why have you got a flash meter? It's digital. For those that care, this is a Canon R5 Mark II, I think it is. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. It's digital, and you're probably thinking, well, you don't need a light meter with digital, because you can basically look on the screen. If you tab it into a laptop, you've got all that information there, which is fair enough. But just occasionally, I will use a light meter, especially in instances like this where the softbox and the flash is firing towards the camera lens rather than towards the actual subject, and it is actually doing both in this instance. So I actually took a flash meter reading. Now, if you're going to take a reading, obviously you're not going to hold the meter here towards the lens. You're going to actually have the little dome pointing towards the actual softbox. So I held it just level with the earpieces here and took a flash meter reading to get the f11, so I could set the power to get f11 for this actual shot. Now, I took 3 photographs. Now, the first shot was this base photograph, and this is the main image. But as you can see, the little grills, the little mesh grills on the front and sides of these earpieces are quite dark, and I actually needed them to be considerably brighter than this. So what I did, after taking this first shot, I took this piece of card here, I held it at about this position so that it's going to bounce some light back in. Light's going to come off the softbox, and bounce forward, and it's going to hit this edge grill on this one near me here, and it's going to basically hit this front grill on this one here. So I took another shot and then moved it to this side, so that light coming off the softbox this way was going to bounce off the card into this bit here, the front of this one, and onto this one on the edge. So I took 3 photographs. What I did after editing the main hero shot in Capture One, by doing all the touching and getting rid of any little specks of dust and stuff like that, I exported the 3 images into Affinity Photo, because in Capture One you can't work with layers like in Photoshop, which is a real pain. I wish Capture One would allow you to do that, because it's a thing that photographers use all the time. So I exported the 3 images into Affinity Photo. I had the main shot as the top layer, and then the 2 shots that I took with this white card I had set underneath it. And then using the erase tool, I just erased these little bits here so that I could, the little mesh bits, so I could actually have them shine through and become a lot brighter. Now, a tip, when you're using the eraser tool, I'd suggest you zoom right in, especially on things like this where you've just got this tiny little mesh grill. Zoom right in a lot, and then just look at the natural edge around the grill at the pixels. You'll see the pixelation because you just zoomed in all the way basically, and then set the feathering of the edge of your brush to match the natural feathering around the edge of anything that you're actually erasing, so that it matches. You don't want to basically have the brush edge really sharp, because that's going to look unnatural. So try and get the feathering on the brush edge to match the feathering that's naturally there in the photograph to start with. Okay, so that's pretty much how Apple do these shots. There's not too much to it. It's a very simple shot to take. So give it a go yourself and see how you get on. Hope you liked the video. If you did, maybe I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye for now.